Hey, everybody, welcome to Love and Reload, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I am so blessed and honored to be here with my friend Nina Arnaiz, president of Premia Relocation Mortgage in the D. My old stomach. Nina, I got a Detroit mug here
Oh,
for
I
you
love
even.
it.
I'm
I should
repping.
have that.
I'm repping the 313 here. Yeah, for sure.
I love it.
I
You're
got
representing.
I'm trying to. I'm trying to. Yeah. So Nina, where exactly are you right now?
I'm in our office in Troy, Michigan, actually. It's
Is
right
that
there
on
on Long.
like Big Beaver Road or where are you located?
No, we used to be a while back. We're on Long Lake and Crooks. You're probably familiar,
Okay.
right where the I-75, probably
Okay.
getting on and off. So right there.
If you're in the neighborhood, go stop by and see Nina today. She's in the office.
Yes.
Uh, but no, we got a really cool show. Nina, I'm so happy you're here
Thank you.
right now. I remember the first time that I met you actually was at a DRRC
Yeah,
event. It was a Christmas holiday event. Do you remember that
I
event,
do.
Nina?
I do remember actually. That was my first event as the president of Premia. That was my first regional that I've attended actually. That was right in our backyard, obviously, right there in Detroit. And yeah, I do remember like meeting you right after we had couple speaker obviously speak, and one of the speaker in particular was from the Mittens, the Detroit Mittens, and she just had an amazing story to share with all of us, and story after story. But the one that really resonated with me was the mom with 5 kids, and you don't realize. I mean, you do and you don't. I've obviously been in Michigan since I've been in this country, and I know Detroit, and I know obviously a lot of struggle and a lot of needs there. But it doesn't. It resonated with me, the story of the need with that mom with 5 kids, and she couldn't send her kids to school, all of them at the same time. She had to send one kid at a time because she didn't have mittens in those cold days to be able to send them all to wear it, and that was just like it was so hard to hear, to be honest with you. And I remember right after she finished the story, I remember my our vice president of marketing, Mark Britt, he had brought in a bunch of mittens to obviously donate there. So I was there with Mark and then also Michael Bailey. And as soon as we were done, I right away told them, they're literally like 30 minutes away from our office. It's like a freeway hop over. Like, we have to do this 4 times a year. We need to donate. It's such a great cause. And we've been doing it since literally that regional back in December 2019, before the pandemic and everything. We did that last year as well. It's just, the need is so great. And I remember walking out in the area where it was all the food and everybody was hanging out. And that's when I actually met you for the first time. And I think I was still like in shock with the story. Like, it was just so sad, to be honest with you, hearing it. So, but yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that was the first time you and I have met.
Wow, that's so good because I thought you didn't like me because you were really quiet. I didn't realize how moved and impacted you were by the speaker. I
No,
was like, she doesn't really seem that into me. Well, it's nice to meet you, Nina.
you as well. No, not at all. I think I was still in shock, like I said, from the story, and it
Yeah,
really hit with me. And like I said, but then it got much better later. But it was nothing
yeah.
against you, so sorry. Didn't mean it that
No,
way at all.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But no, it was really powerful and impactful talk, and it's so cool that you lead with purpose like that. I have so much respect for leaders who actually implement these kinds of initiatives in their organizations. I know it's not easy. I know we're always focused on the bottom line and being profitable. I mean, that's what businesses do, but it's also really cool when leaders lead on all fronts like that. So a lot of
Yeah.
props there, Nina. We got a bunch of people checking in right now. I want to hear from you. I want to know where you are, who you are, where you work, what you're up to right now. We got a bunch of people checking in on LinkedIn and Facebook. Tim Quirk from Western New York, another sunny day. Hey, get them while you can, Tim. Stacy Huff. What's up, Stacy? Super producer Stacy back there. Darren Burley from Grable in Seattle. What's up, Darren? Good to see you, bud. Michael Bailey. Shout out to Michael Bailey, friend of the program, fellow DRRCer. Awesome. Very cool. Thanks for making this happen. Anthony Walmsley checking in from the UK. It's been a while, man. Good for you. Got to catch up. Mark Britt. I think Mark made this happen. So shout out to Mark also.
Yes, he is. Yes, he's donating my time. It's like we're talking about cross. I was like, all right. I love it.
Hey, thank you, Mark. I appreciate you. I love Mark. Mark and I remember the first time I met Mark Britt too at a Worldwide ERC event in DC. We were in the back of an Irish pub with our mutual friend Becky Bowman, and it was a lively time. So that's great.
He's amazing. He's great.
Yeah, he is. Rob Hughes checking in from Scottsdale. Jack Jampel, what's up, Jack? I want to hear your thoughts on mortgages too, Jack. If you've got questions for Nina, our mortgage expert, we're going to be talking about mortgages. We're going to be talking about, women in leadership, the relocation industry. We're going to be talking about a little bit about Nina's story too. I'm really excited about that. It's a pretty cool story. So if you got any questions, leave them in the comments, please. Simon Johns, hi, Nina and Ben from the UK. What's up, Simon? Go Nina, watching from Minneapolis. That's great. That's David B in the house. Elizabeth Martin, Lizzie Beats in the house in Chicago. That's great. Ken Baker from Shelby Township, Michigan. Look at this. Lisa Fontana, hey, from Pennsylvania. That's great. Let's okay. Let's see here. Okay, cool. So I wanted to ask you, Nina, because you mentioned before, ever since you've been in this country, you've been in Detroit. What was your first exposure in your life to global mobility? I mean, was it in your personal life?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've moved, my family and I have moved, but it was, a move on our own. It wasn't part of a corporate relocation that we're obviously used to.
Sure.
But yeah, I've moved. It's a bit different. It's cross country, it's a different country. I moved from the Middle East. So I was born actually and lived until I was 11 years old in Iraq. So I know you were in Michigan and you lived in Michigan for a while. So I don't know if you've heard of Chaldean.
I love Chaldeans. My barber's Chaldean. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
No, the Chaldeans can cut hair. Let me tell you what, they got the fade and the scissor cut.
Yes.
Shout out to Will, my barber. Love the Chaldeans.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go.
Yeah.
So now you know everything. So yes, I'm Chaldean. So it's the Christian part of obviously Iraq. So yeah, my family and I moved actually when I was 11 years old. We lived in Greece for about 3.5 years. And then I came to this country, to specifically Michigan, out of all the beautiful, warm state. I come to Michigan, which
but all the Chaldeans are in Michigan. I don't know. What is that? Can you answer that question? Why is there is a huge Chaldean community in Michigan, and nobody else in the country knows about Chaldean culture? But you go to Michigan, and they're like, "Oh, Chaldeans! Yeah, I love Chaldeans. I know Chaldeans. Yeah." But what is that about? Because I never met Chaldeans until I came to Michigan. Why are they all in Michigan?
Yeah,
it can't be the climate is so much like home. So what is that?
Definitely not the climate, let me tell you, because I think one person came to Michigan and the rest of them just followed suit, to be honest with you. Nobody thought about, let's go to California or Arizona or anywhere else, because, I mean, I come from 100-degree weather 9 months out of the year, and our cold is like 80, 75. And then I come here and I'm like, it's -20, -30. And I'm like, this is like to the bone cold. And it was not fun, so let me tell you. Oh, yeah.
That's so funny. The first Chaldean must have showed up in July. I told everybody else to come over in August. They showed up, and then it was October, and they're like, what did you do to us?
That's right.
They were just stuck there.
They didn't realize 9 months out of the year in this state, it's like cold and cloudy and gray and just rainy. It's not pretty at all. But yeah, there's a huge population. I do know that there is smaller population, like part of California, part of Vegas, Nevada. They love Vegas. There is some maybe in Chicago, but the majority is all in Michigan. You say Chaldean, people know. That's why I asked you if you knew what Chaldean is, and yeah, you do. So yes, that's where I was born, obviously, and lived pretty much the majority of my life, and now my other majority is here. But we came to Michigan when I was 15. And, I spoke a little bit of English. Arabic obviously is the language we spoke, but I spoke a little bit of English, and it was very different English. It was proper, like water, not water, and you name it, all the other stuff in terms of how we use the language. I went to Catholic school back home, so they teach you a little bit, but you don't know how to have like fluent conversation, read, write, everything. So it's a bit slower. So we came in June And there was no school, we're out until September. So I spent the whole summer months, 3 months out of that summer staring at a TV and watching soap opera. Way to go. Not a good idea. But that's what I did. And that was the only thing that I literally would have on TV. I would turn on the caption at the bottom, and I would have my dictionary next to me, and I would listen because it was a slower dialogue and a lot of commercial in between. And I can actually turn on the caption. I can hear what they're saying, and then I read it at the bottom. And sometimes the pronunciation sounded so much different, again, because of the way we speak it versus I learned it back home. So I would literally look it up in the dictionary. I know what the word looked like, and I was like, oh, that's how you say it. So 3 months of staring at soap opera and 90210 and Melrose Place, all the good friends, not all these.
That makes so much sense. That makes so much sense what you say about they speak slower in the soap operas, and they're emoting, and then all this body language and all this context, right? So it does seem like the best way to learn. And I guess you could do the same thing with Spanish and telenovelas or other things, right? I mean, watching soap operas makes a ton of sense. Wow. See, you just put all these language training companies out of business. You know, they didn't know you could learn English off soap operas.
Listen, it was only 3 months. I did go to school, and obviously I learned, but that's kind of where I learned it. But it truly is, like you said, it's the body language. Like even when they say it's slower, and then you try to kind of, if someone's speaking so fast, you really don't understand it, like in movies and stuff. But in the soap opera, it was like a slower pace, the body language, and then everything else that they said behind it, that kind of, I knew what the word meant, maybe not verbatim, but then I'll look it up later, but I kind of knew what the sentence meant. So that's how I learned it, thanks to General Hospital and you name it, all the other soap operas that are still going on to this day. So yeah, it could be another way of putting those companies out of business and teaching immigrant how to speak English.
Well, but I mean, this is an incredible story. I mean, you come over here when you're 15, you don't speak much English, and then here you are now, the president of a company. Yeah. And I mean, that's quite a journey. I mean, were you always this strong, courageous, visionary leader, or what was that journey like, if I can just, out of curiosity?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I went to school here, obviously. I learned it. It wasn't always like that. And I think initially when you don't speak the language, you're new to the country, you don't have all the ins and outs of how to communicate. It's very different, obviously, not just the language, but body language, how you say it, everything that comes with it. It was kind of scary, to be honest with you. And it was intimidating, and it kind of always wasn't a talker, like kind of sat in the back of the room and just kind of listened and took it in. And I do this to this day, to be honest with you. Like when we go on vacation, like that's my time. I tell my husband all the time, like whether it's him and I or like with the kids, I don't like to keep talking. I do this for a living all day, every day. I'm a talker. My team knows me. Everybody that knows me, I'm like nonstop. But when I go on vacation, I'm like in silent mode. Like I just want to listen. I'll sit back, listen to everybody, but don't volunteer me talking. But I turn it off very quickly when I'm on vacation. But no, I mean, it took a lot of, I think, learning the language, being comfortable, meeting obviously friends and coworkers. I worked, it's just odd. I never worked with any Chaldean. A lot of Chaldean will work with Chaldean and then transition. I immediately worked with Americans. I was in the banking industry. I learned how to do mortgages there, sell annuities, stuff like that. So I just, my friends were a mix of all, and I made an effort. I think anywhere we hung out with, even my closest friend that were Chaldean, I didn't speak like Arabic. I purposely spoke English because I wanted to kind of like make sure, like, even if I say it wrong or incorrectly, or any of us, okay, they can laugh at me. They're my best friend, but I don't want to kind of embarrass myself out in public saying it incorrectly. But even then I did, and I still sometimes do. And I was like, okay, I laugh it off and move on. Like, who cares? But it took time, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So Nina, going from those amazing that amazing story that we heard there, how did you get into relocation mortgage?
Yeah. So I worked at the bank, and one of my coworkers that I was actually training to do mortgages, his best friend was running the sales division for GMAC Mortgage Corporate Relocation at the time, because that's what our company had been doing, relocation, for over 33 years. We were formerly GMAC Mortgage. So they were looking for loan officers, and he's like, I think you would be great. You should interview. I'm like, thanks, but no thanks. He took my resume, sent it to the person. They called me for an interview, and I went in, and they offered me the job. And at the time, I was only married for a year, and I was like, I don't know. This is a big, like, I've just got all our bills. We just bought a house. I don't want to change, it's a lot of scary stuff. But my husband, who's amazing, who's American, and he's German Belgian. So he's like, no, do it. If anybody could do it, the journey you've come through and everything, he's like, if anybody could do this, you could do it. Do it. I think you should do it. So I did. I took the job. I started actually at GMAC Relo as a loan officer in 2002. And I just worked I was a loan officer for about 4 years. And then I doing relocation specifically. And I just loved it. I mean, I knew mortgages. And one of the reasons really my coworker at the time thought I would be a great fit, just because I have a lot of patience. I love teaching people. I love, giving as much information to people as possible about something they don't know, because I feel like that's what people attract to. They want to learn. They want to be educated. And customer service is a huge thing in a lot of people that work in the banking industry. So that was kind of the biggest thing for GMAC at the time. It's how do you build that relationship? How do you provide that amazing customer service, especially in relocation, because people are going through such a huge change. So he thought I'd be a great fit. Like I said, I interviewed, got the job, and I loved it when I started there. I just loved it. It's so intriguing to me, like the relocation business. It's very different, and that's what I loved most about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and we've got a bunch of comments coming in here. I want to hear your comments for Nina. If you've got questions, if you've got comments, if you find her story inspirational like I do, if you've got questions about women in leadership, I mean, any of that, I want to hear it. We've got some great comments here. We got Candy Wright checking in here as well. We've got Janet Turner checking in Central Florida. She's got her Premia Mortgage umbrella working in Florida rain. That's great.
All right.
Yep. That's wonderful. Michael Bailey here chatting it up here. This is great. Kaya, is that? That's awesome. You rock out in Minneapolis. Ray Abbott checking in. Kathy, go Nina. I love that as a woman you stepped into your power and you dreamed big.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. Janet Turner also says, I love Nina's story. That's so cool. Hit that like button if you love Nina's story. But Nina, I'm going to ask you, what was the turning point for you in your career where you go from being Kathy says you stepped into your power and dreamed big. Was there a moment or a series of moments where you went from being a loan officer and really kind of like, wait, I can do more. I can really kind of ascend here. What was that moment or series of moments for you?
Yeah, it was actually, a manager of mine that came to me and said, I think you should be a manager. I think you've got really the patience and the tools and the resources, and people are really attracted. They love working for you and with you. And I think you'd be great. And at the time, to be honest with you, when he said to me, I was like, no, I'm doing so great as a loan officer. I'm like top producer, making great money. Like I manage my day, I manage my desk, my business, my borrower love me. Like, I don't want to get off the phone. I love talking on the phone with people and helping them. It was just that satisfaction, to be honest with you, that I got every single time. You talk to a transfer, you move them from point A to point B, and those great thank you emails and messages that they send you, it meant the world to me, to be honest with you. So I didn't know if I want to give that up, and I didn't know if it even was like ready. And my management material, like sometimes you doubt yourself with all these things, like, I don't know, can I do this? I don't think I can. And at the time, I remember he told me that he said this comment to me. He's like, you're a great loan officer, but he said you could be even a better manager than you are a loan officer, and you're one of our best loan officer. And to be honest with you, when he said this to me, I was like, oh my God, someone believes me more than I believe in myself. That's pretty impressive, And I'm like, really? I don't think I will. He's like, just give it a try and do it. Just, let's manage a smaller team. So I did. I managed an 8 loan officer team. And it was great. I loved, like I said, I love to roll my sleeve and work with the team, day in and day out. I don't feel like I'm not I'm not big and crazy on titles. Like to me, to this day where I'm at, I roll my sleeve and get involved with transaction, pick up the phone, call borrowers, call relocation consultant. I just love it. So I don't think, titles doesn't get in my head, and I feel like it's all part of the team, and we all need to work together to get one goal, which is getting that transfer from point A to point B, making people happy. So I did that, and then a few years later, then I ended up in charge of the entire sales team, and then until recently, I was the vice president of the entire sales platform and our technology, and then just as late as November 2019 as the president. So
wow.
yeah.
What advice would you give to people who are thinking about making that jump or taking a leap in their career and maybe have those doubts or maybe have some of, we've talked about this on the show, limiting self-talk or, or concern that maybe they can't do it. What kind of advice would you give to people going through that?
Yeah, great point. I'd say believe in yourself, to be honest with you. And it's okay to be nervous, and it's okay to have doubts, to think that you are not good enough. I think that's what makes you a better person and better fit for that position. Because I think if you get into it thinking, I've got it, I know what I'm doing, I've got it. I feel like that's just too overconfident, to be honest with you, and you're never working on yourself and try to better yourself and working with the team. And also, I would say, do a better job than I did, because clearly I didn't believe initially, and I had, someone kind of give me that push. But I think once I stepped into it, I feel like it was good. But if you're a hard worker and you're motivated and you've made the commitment and you're willing to take risks and you're ambitious, do it, because to be honest with you, that's the best decision you probably could make. And then surround yourself with people that feel the same way, in my opinion. I think positivity is huge. I always love to have people around me that are positive and kind of have a can-do-it attitude. I think that's huge versus people that kind of bring you down and have negative, because it doesn't work. It's just not fun, to be honest with you. So I'd say believe in yourself and go after it, take risk and do it, because and you have to. You're the only person that kind of your own cheerleader, in my opinion. Sherelle Kilger does an amazing job, to be honest with you. Shout out to her. She's her own cheerleader, and she's sometimes our own cheerleader in the office, in terms of, motivating and promoting and pushing every one of us. It doesn't matter, like, you are the best. And I love that confidence in her, and it's amazing. It's contagious, in my opinion. So
we talk a lot about women in leadership on the show, and women mentoring women and creating opportunities for people. And I'm going to ask a question. We're talking about, self-doubt. This is something that we all struggle with, and talking about being your own cheerleader. And we've got some amazing comments here coming in. Is this something that you feel women struggle with more than men, or do you feel like it's equal?
No, I think we do. I think we do, and it depends maybe on the industry, but I definitely do think, and I think part of it is, I don't want to blame all of it on men, to be honest with you, because sometimes we kind of conflict that on our own self. Like, we don't have, the self-confidence to stand up in a boardroom and say exactly what we want to say, because we don't want to be looked at differently. I think the other piece could be because of the nature of what we're at, and maybe men-dominated industry sometimes. Women and men are looked at differently, to be honest with you. And I say this all the time. A man will say what's on their mind, and will say it, and it'll come across as, wow, he's driven, he's, willing to take action, and just kudos. If I go out there in the boardroom and say the exact way, I'm aggressive, I'm emotional. So it's that stigma that sometimes it really bothersome to me, because I am very passionate about what I do and about my job and everything. And I feel like if I say it and say the exact same way, whether, I'm a man, woman, why should it be taken any differently? So I think there is that out there. And sometimes, we take it to our head. So I feel like that's why I'm always like, I'm going to say it how I want to say it, and I'm going to make the point across. I don't want to be fake. I don't want to be someone else, because I want to be able to fight what I believe in for my company, for our team, and go with it. And I think sometimes it takes people that don't know you might think you're aggressive. And others that do know you think you're passionate. So, what I feel like, you got to get to know me, and you'll realize how passionate I am. And maybe you don't realize that I'm being aggressive, and maybe you think I'm aggressive. I don't know. But
And
I think
maybe it's
there's,
okay if you are aggressive.
yes,
You know what? Like,
exactly.
I'm kind of aggressive too, and I'm kind of emotional too. And I've been called those things as well. But I think it's important for us to be allies to our female counterparts as well,
Yes.
and create those spaces and all that. We've got some really cool comments coming in. Joanna's checking in. Mark Britt says, hands down, best boss I ever worked for. Oh, that's
Thank you,
nice. And
Mark.
then, yeah, Brian, one team, one dream. Ingrid Van Veen even says, love how down to earth you are. Pretty cool. Sherelle, Mark Britt agree 100%. And then that was even before you complimented her. Wow, thank you, Nina. See how cool that is? Yeah. Look at Joe Cardini coming out here. Look at Joe. What's up, Joe? Sincere representation of transparency, vulnerability, and humility. The results as seen in a great team producing great results are therefore not a surprise. Well done, Nina. Bristol truly appreciates
Thank you
you
so
and your
much.
team.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. They're amazing. We love the Bristol team. They're awesome.
Yeah, that's a ringing endorsement. Rob Hughes, Cheryl Kilgore, so true. Candy Wright, assertive women are powerhouses. People often mix up aggressive and assertive. Yeah, and I think that, from what I've seen, the mortgage industry tends to be a pretty, I'm going to go out on a limb and say male-dominated industry or skews male. But it seems like in relocation, maybe, is there more parity or is it still very male-dominated? What is your take on that?
No, I think it's the opposite. If maybe half and half, but I really truly do think in Relo, it's different. It's more women dominated, and I think it's because you've got from your HR director in charge of the Relo program, and then relocation consultant. I mean, I feel like that particular position, it's much more female dominated than actually male. And then in the mortgage, I think from loan officer to processor, I think you have a pretty good combo in my opinion, to be honest with you. But I think in general, if you put all of Relo together, I feel like we've got a really good either 50-50, men, women versus maybe even a little bit more on the women's side than the men, to be honest with you. And I think maybe I love it, to be honest with you, because I think with relocation, with women, it's just no bad talking about men here, but I just do think that women are more empathetic. They're more relatable. I think when we're talking to the transferees, whether it's the male or female, we understand how stressful the process is. You've got the family, the kids, the pets, moving school, realtors, the selling the house, the pressure of making sure everything is going in that checklist. I think that women are really good at. I think just we relate a lot. We understand the pressure. And I think it comes across when we're talking to the transferee. And I feel like it puts them at ease, to be honest with you. Just, I don't know, more multitasking. We get it more. Not that men don't. I think men and women both in the relo industry provide amazing, excellent customer service. I just think maybe a little bit more empathetic and relatable. And I think probably why there are more women in the industry, in the relo at least specifically, than men.
It does seem like women are well represented. I wonder if they're as well represented in the C-suite. We always kind of have that conversation as well. They definitely seem to be well represented for all the reasons you enumerated. I do see some opportunities for female entrepreneurship in this space and moving, from employee to entrepreneur. We've talked about that in other episodes as well. But I want to switch gears, if that's all right. And I want to talk about the mortgage industry a little bit, because it seems like it's been a really crazy couple of years for mortgages, for home sales. I mean, it's been kind of banana pancakes out there. And I wanted to get an update, just general update, and you can take this wherever you want to go. And I'm sure we're going to go down a lot of different paths with this. I also want to open it up to everybody watching right now. We've got Candy and Joe Cardini. Joe, you got a mortgage question? What's up out there? Janet, Michael Bailey, Lisa. I mean, I want to hear from y'all out there. I want to hear your mortgage questions. Jack Jampel, don't get shy on me now. I want to hear everybody out there. I want to hear your mortgage questions. What are you seeing out there? What are you hearing? If you got questions for your, in your personal life, professional questions, scenarios or whatever, please leave those in the comments. We will get to all of those, I promise. But Nina, what's going on in mortgages? You want to give us an update?
Oh God, what's not going on? It's been pretty busy, pretty crazy busy. Really since all of 2020, even with the pandemic and all, and then now going into 2021, and just extremely busy. Really good things, to be honest with you. Really good news, in my opinion. I always tell the team we're super busy. It's a great problem to have, to be honest with you. No one's complaining. I love it. But it went from starting of 2020 and rates being as low as they were, and obviously everybody refinancing, which we did our past borrow, but we specialize obviously in purchase relocation. That's kind of where our bread and butter is. And the moves slowed down a bit, but not a whole lot, to be honest with you. People were still kind of going out there looking. I feel like that lockdown period, like the month of April and half of May, when all of us were in lockdown, that's kind of where it slowed down a bit, but then it took off right after, and it hasn't really slowed down at all. So it's been really busy. The availability of credit, it's been much better. The people being laid off and furloughed. And I know in Relo, we don't run obviously in a lot of that in terms of, a lot of our borrowers are W-2 borrowers and salaried, really good position, a lot of companies that do extremely well and all that stuff. But some people did end up having to get impacted in terms of their income and furlough. But as a country, we all got impacted. So a lot of the investor, the Fannie, the Freddie, FHA, kind of put in some restriction just to make sure we're not doing some crazy lending, let's be honest, like we did maybe a decade ago, and get people in trouble, which I think it's really smart, because you don't want to extend credit to people that are probably not good in a financial position. So some of those went into restriction like in March, April timeframe. Then once the country started opening back up, and I would say just in the last, a lot of things got lifted, and then I would say it's pretty much gone, at least for us. I can speak. All the restriction related to COVID has been completely lifted, and there's, just amazing, availability for credit, to be honest with you. And the market that we're in is just extremely booming from a housing, perspective. I mean, they can't keep enough houses on the market. The average, I think right now we're running at 2 months, based on the latest report that just got published last week or earlier this week. 2 months is what we have out there. And obviously it varies per state, but on average is about 2 months. And builders can't build, homes quickly enough they put them out there on the market. So it's a great problem to have, to be honest with you. And at some point it will balance where the supply and demand will get in check. But right now the demand is extremely high and there's not enough supply, unfortunately.
With the demand being extremely high, it's got to create some scenarios. And I'd love to hear your thoughts out there. If you're watching this right now, throw it in the comments. I'd love to hear what you're seeing and what you're thinking out there. But it's got to create situations where homes are being sold for, it's hard to say more than they're worth, right? Because I guess the market dictates what a house is worth. The house is worth what somebody's willing to pay for it. Mm-hmm. But it's got to create situations where there's this temporary influx in value. Mm-hmm. And is that a dangerous situation to be in?
A lot of people kind of talk about the bubble, and I truly don't think we are in any form of bubble. And let me tell you why. Even because, back in 2015 and 2002, a decade ago, like I said, there was a lot of, I feel like, some irresponsible lending, and this is just my personal, maybe view on it, where, a lot of lenders were doing 80-20. So you've got zero invested in the property. You're given an 80-first mortgage, a second mortgage at 20%. And you're getting into these homes. And people at the time, they were going through a huge bidding war, just like you're mentioning right now, in terms of, making multiple offer and going 10, 20, 30, 40 grand above, which a lot of it experienced a lot on the West Coast, specifically, and then doing the IO, the interest only product. So you've got zero down payment into the, investment. You're putting no principal in there, and then you're buying the house already, upside, I don't want to say upside down, but kind of over, like you said, it depends on how much it's worth is what you're looking to pay for it. But it was pretty high up there. And I feel like we're not in any sort of bubble like we were a decade ago. And that's because we've got a lot more responsible financing options right now. Nobody's out there offering 80-20 and IO with the 80-20 and letting people debt to income ratio go to crazy, skyrocketing number. I think it's extremely responsible. And relocation in general, it's always been very responsible. So we probably in Relo didn't experience it, but as an industry, it absolutely did. So I wouldn't say we're in a bubble, but I would absolutely say that there is a lot of bidding wars are happening. I think the house value, I always tell our borrowers when an appraisal comes in lower, it's worth how much you're willing to pay for the house. The appraisal is only for lending purposes. It's for our purposes only. So if you think the house is worth it and you want to pay for it and you've done your homework and there isn't enough properties out there, then that's your choice, obviously, to do. So I don't know. I don't think it's to that degree, but I do think in some areas there is a lot of bidding wars and stuff. So.
You're right. I mean, it's up to you to pay what you want to pay for it, I suppose. And Joe, great question. I'm going to get to Joe's question here in a second. But I just have like a follow up here. I mean, it is up to the purchaser to pay what they want to pay for it, right? But
Absolutely.
they're only putting 3% down, 10% down, maybe 20. Nobody's putting more than 20 down. That means you're putting the other 80, 90, 95, 90, 98, so on and so forth down. So, I mean, they can be, they can decide what it's worth, but I mean, you got to say it. I mean, the mortgage company is saying that too. And are mortgage companies, financing houses above and if they are, right? If they are, and we're going to get to Joe's question that kind of deals with what happens, when it comes out. But if they are, I mean, what is the downside, and is that a risk that we might?
So you bring up a great point. So remember, whether the borrower is putting 5%, 3%, or 20%, or even more, which there are borrowers that are obviously doing that. Regardless,
why would somebody put more than 20% down if they could get 8, 10, 15% in the market, and they're getting 3%, paying 3% interest?
There's people that are paying cash right now, Ben. And not investing it. So yes,
I guess. Okay, okie dokie. I guess.
I ask that question all the time. Like, why do you have a financial advisor? Because I used to have do you talk to them? Like, you should be investing it out there. The rates are like 2 3/4, 2.5. I mean, ARM is like 1 1/4, 1.5. I mean, when have you ever heard of rate being that low? And why would you put that in a mortgage when you can go out there and invest it and get at least, in a CD, for God's sake, you probably can get more than 1.5 right nowadays. I don't know.
My friend just bought a house for $350K cash. His dad bought it for him, $350K cash. I'm like, tell your dad to use 10 of that for a down payment, and then go put the rest of it in Amazon stock and call me in 10 years and thank me for it. Buy me a steak.
There you go.
I don't understand what people are doing out here.
I don't know. It's such a great point, but we get those people. So I think you got two different sets. You got the people that don't want to have any debt and like paying cash, and they don't believe in credit card and all. But I get it. But at the same token, like you said, go invest and you can be a millionaire maybe in 10 years, and hopefully you would be. And who cares if you're in a little bit of debt? You're financially stable. You can make the mortgage payment, and you can pay it off anytime you want if the market flips. So why would you not? But then you've got the other population that says, I'm not comfortable investing in the market. And then you've got the bidding war that's happening. I guess you're going in there and your offer number 10, if the buyer is probably, the seller, I should say, is probably going to accept a cash buyer that can close in 5 days versus maybe through a mortgage lender and closing in 2 weeks, maybe. I don't know. That's the market, but we do offer delayed financing. So you can always pay cash like your friend did and turn around within 90 days before the 90 days is over. And you can actually do delay financing, and we can do financing for you and then go invest your money in the market again. So they've got that option.
That's cool. I like that. Yeah. Okay, we got Joe Cardini's got a great question here. Yeah. Keep these questions coming. I want to hear your questions. Your questions are always better than my questions. Let's see what Joe says. So when will supply and demand fall in line? What will be the catalyst to cause the balancing?
Oh, God, I wish I have the exact date and answer.
Yes, we need a date and a time of day, please.
Sorry, Joe, I can't give you that. But I think in the next few months, to be honest with you, a lot of builders are out there going out there applying for permits and building homes faster than you know it. I think the market right now, probably for the next few months, is going to continue being that aggressive because keep in mind in a lot of different states, kids are getting out of school. The people that didn't move last year are moving now. They're going to be probably looking out there, looking for homes, and want to get in before school start, because that's kind of where everybody's going to cut off September, want to get their kids registered. So I think in the next few months, they're probably going to continue being extremely aggressive. But I'd say by August, September timeframe, I think it will balance. But don't code me on it, because I don't have a crystal ball. I always tell people, if I have that kind of intel, I'd work on Wall Street, being like selling stock, buying it cheap, selling it, and I'll be a millionaire someday. But that's the best guess that I can give you, Joe.
Yeah, for sure. We wouldn't be hustling mortgages, right, Joe?
Nope.
We'd be out there speculating. Well, Joe, in fairness, Joe did let you off the hook. I didn't tell you this, but he let you off the hook on the win question. But I do want to ask, though. I want to go back to the other part of his question. What will be the catalyst to cause the balancing? What will cool off the demand? I mean, you mentioned that builders are building, but is there a cooling of demand that you see coming?
Yeah, I think there will be. I think yes, I think there's a lot of first-time home buyer getting in the market. So I think that's what's really making the market where it's at. I also do think that rate being so cheap right now, even the people that didn't think about purchasing a home, a few years ago, want to purchase a home right now, because the rates are so cheap. Like it's cheaper than a credit card on some people's credit card, to be honest with you. So I think that's going to be one of the pieces. And I think rate, depending on the state of the economy, the state of the pandemic, obviously, and inflation, I think I do see rate probably in the next 3 to 9 months will actually start inching back up. Yeah, the Fed is not talking about increasing rate anytime soon, but the mortgage rate don't react specifically to what the Fed is saying. They obviously follow the 10-year treasury, but I truly believe that rate will actually start climbing, which it's not getting people completely out of the mortgage, but it's slowing that demand, to your point, because rates are being so cheap. So I'd say that's one of the pieces. The other pieces is just availability of credit. There's tons of availability of credit. People have to, save for down payment and things like that. There's a lot of cash, I would say, right now in the market in general, from a lot of the stimulus. People have been locked up at home, let's be honest, for a year and a half. Depending on where you're at, like in Michigan, we kind of went in lockdown even before, like in early March, and it's still kind of, opening back up and things like that, slowly, maturely. But we haven't, gone on as a country, done a lot of vacation, a lot of spending. So people are just, saving all this money. Is like, well, what can I go do with it? And, let me get it into a house, put a 3% down payment, to your point, or 5%, and buy my first home and not have to make a rent payment, someone else's mortgage payment. So I think all this combination will actually help ease that demand. And then obviously more properties on the market, I think, will be another piece. So it's just a combo of thing. It's not one thing that's going to fix the entire problem, to be honest with you, that we've got right now.
So when do we see rates going up? And help me understand, like, when you say going up, like, how much are we talking? Because I'm in a situation where I'm probably about a year and a half away from buying another house, and just out of my own curiosity, I'm like, what are rates going to be when I get in the market in 18?
Yeah, I don't think you have to worry, Ben. I don't think they're going to be going to 6% or 7% in a year and a half. It's going to take some time, so you've got plenty of time. But I think when I say they go up, I think it's a normal, reasonable rate. Like when I got in the mortgage business, the 30-year fix was 6%, 5.5%, 5.75%. Depending, years later, 5%. I mean, I've never been able to lock until recently a 30-year product at 2.5% or 2.75%. I mean, that's just really unheard of. So when I say they go up, I'd say another 1.5%. So they'll probably hover somewhere in the 3.5%, maybe 4%. But I would not say they would actually go anywhere in the 5 or 6% in the year and a half that you're looking to purchase. So it'll be a gradual increase, and depending on what else is going on in the economy as well, and how we're recovering from it. That's all together in inflation, obviously.
So Nina, I just heard you lock me in at 2.5 for the next 18 months. Is that correct? Is that what I heard?
All right. Call me, yes.
Sweet.
Call me.
Hey, Mark Britt, Michael Bailey, I'm calling you after this. All right, Sherelle Kilgore, write it. Okay. I need my approval letter. All right. No, but
We'll
all
take care
kidding
of you.
aside, I do have actually a question because when COVID hit, the CARES Act came out.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. And the CARES Act was, I guess you'd call it stimulus, where they're basically telling people that they could do a forbearance on their mortgage.
Yes.
And do you want to explain to people what that benefit was, what that allowed people to do?
Sure. So yes, the forbearance was obviously an option. So it was more of, if you're in a situation where you've lost, your job altogether, or you've had reduction in income, and you're not able to make your mortgage payment, and obviously there's other things that might take priority, putting food on the table, taking care of your kids, people, some spouses had to obviously quit their job because the whole homeschooling situation, couldn't work from home and teach, homeschool the kids. So there was a lot of combination, all of that factored in. They allowed for you to call your mortgage lender and put your mortgage in what we call a forbearance, where you're not making your mortgage payment for 90 days. And that did not count against you, like from a negative reporting or anything, because of the pandemic, and because obviously it was out there available to everybody. Now you can go for an entire 90 days and not make any payments, or you could do it out of precaution, like you said, and everything is good. You've got the money. You can continue making your mortgage payment, and still put it in forbearance should something happen. You can obviously just skip that particular payment, let's say, for example. So that could be one of the cases.
Yeah, but that 90 days, I mean, I think it went up to a year. You could extend it up to a year, right?
Yes. So then you're in 90 days, and then you can call your mortgage servicer lender and say, you know what, I still can't make my mortgage payment. I need to extend it. So they could extend it, to your point, all the way up to a year. And all that really the person needed to do is kind of call and ask for it again, and they could do that. And at any time they've got their job back, they're out of furlough, they've got their income, and they want to go back to making that mortgage payment, as a borrower, you've got several options that they offered you, which is really nice. You could come back out of forbearance and make all the lump sum payment, which not a lot of people pick that option, obviously, but you could do that. So make that entire payment. You can tag it to the balance of the loan and increase your loan term.
For like a deferment, basically,
yes,
right?
Yes, exactly. Or you could just leave it kind of as is. Like I said, they'll add it, continue making your mortgage payments. And as a lender, for us, for anybody that did put their mortgage in forbearance, all we required, and really per the guidelines from the investor, not just Premia, and I know this is for everybody, you would just have to take your mortgage out of forbearance, and you would actually have to make 3 consecutive mortgage payments on time. So we're not going to look back at what you did not make or skip, but we just want to make sure, as an investor, they want you to make 3 consecutive payments on time, and then we can literally close you after you make that 3rd payment. And that was kind of the rule from Fannie, Freddie, FHA, and VA that they allowed us to do, which is really good.
So I think a lot of people didn't realize that this was going on, or didn't realize that they were eligible for it. But I mean, it ultimately allowed people to go for 12 months without making a mortgage payment.
Yes.
And if that's
be kicked out of their house, or
if anything. That's fit, yeah, and they had protection of that, and actually coming. And so that means $1,500, $2,000, $3,000, whatever your mortgage payment is, you're not making that. You're talking about cash sitting around. I mean, you could actually stack a lot of money. To your point, come off that forbearance, make 3 payments, sell the house or whatever, go in and actually use that cash to do something else. So, I mean, I think that's interesting.
You make a great point, by the way, Ben, because we've had a couple different relocating transferee that actually were in forbearance, made the 3 payment, or even if you didn't make the 3rd payment or even 1 payment, because you're selling that property, as the investor looks at it, we don't count that against you. We don't even need you to make that 3 payment. You sell the house, you settle that mortgage. I know.
This was a big question for me, because the 3rd payment, I did this exact thing. And I made 2 payments, and the 3rd payment was the payoff.
Yes.
And I'm like, hey, does this count? And nobody could give me a straight answer.
Yeah, you don't need to.
You actually answered a big question for me, because
Yes.
I didn't know if this was going to be a problem when I call you back at a 2.5 point in a year and a half. And I'm like, Mike Bailey, you said I locked it in, bro. I got the tape. and then I'm trying to get a mortgage, and you're like, no, you didn't make your 3 payments. Anyway, I'm just kidding.
No, you're good. You don't even need, like I said, we've had several borrowers relocating trace-free that we actually closed them right after they come out of forbearance. As long as the mortgage is paid off and closed, the investor accepts it, and you don't even need to make not even one payment, and you can actually get a brand new house, get a brand new mortgage, no problem.
So is this still something that's going on right now? You can still use the CARES Act to go into forbearance? Is that a thing?
Yes, there is.
So if so if people are watching this right now and they have a financial hardship or anything better to do with the money, they can actually call their bank and say, I'd like to exercise a forbearance of up to 90 days, up to a year per the CARES Act. Now, so if people are watching this, again, you owe me a steak, because you could literally take your mortgage and just stick it in the bank or the stock market or wherever, under your mattress, or wherever Dave Ramsey tells you to put it.
Hold on a second, time out. We don't recommend you doing that. That's not advice I'm giving you.
Sorry, that's not Nina. That's not Nina. That's Ben. That's Ben. That's Ben Cross, not Nina.
If you got the payment, make the payment. Don't save the money. Not a good idea.
Sorry. Don't worry. Nobody's watching this. Nobody's watching this. Everybody turn this off. So anyway, yeah, don't do that. But if you were to do that, like I did that last year, I came out of it and I was in a really good situation, sold my house. You guys actually assisted the transferee that bought my house, which I have to say was an unbelievable process. I love that process. It was an amazing. It was amazing. I'll leave it at that. And so, but I wanted to ask a question. I did all this build up about the CARES Act, and I wanted to ask a question.
Yeah.
Will this CARES Act kind of come home to roost down the line? Because people were able to not make a mortgage payment for a year.
Yes.
And that started in March of last year. So we're now 13 months into this CARES Act relief. I didn't start taking mine until July, because my company thought we were going to weather the storm and my pay wasn't impacted. I'm like, this isn't for me. Then sure enough, my pay was, whatever, decreased, right? So I'm like, yeah, I better take advantage of it, right? Anyway, point being is, so I didn't start until July. So if I had not sold my house, I could still be under forbearance right now. Man, that'd be nice. Anyway, so my point is to say, when everybody rolls off that 12-month forbearance.
Yes.
And then I believe they have 90 days or 180 days before they can actually be evicted from their home. Let's say they own a restaurant went out of business. Let's say they lost their business, small business owners, or they were in the conference, but they're in the trade show business, like my cousin, right? And they just don't have a job anymore. He was totally devastated, right? Which happens to some people. God bless. Are we going to see a bunch of houses coming on the market because people just cannot afford those houses anymore after the CARES Act rolls off?
So I think it depends on what state you live in too, because I know the state have gone, like, for example, here in Michigan, they've gone above and beyond beside the CARES Act. They've put rules and regulation in place where you cannot evict someone for 12 months, even beyond that. So so they can't just kind of kick people out of homes, which is a good thing. Obviously, if there's a true reason why someone cannot make their mortgage payment, especially given the pandemic that we've gone through, this should not, I mean, if they do and people still cannot make the mortgage payment, then obviously at some point action will be taken, more homes will be on the market. But I don't think that's going to happen in the next 3 or 6 months, and that's going to solve the housing, bubble or the housing issue that we've got, the aggressive market that we're at, to be honest with you. But I think at some point there could be people that unfortunately will lose their home, and that's pretty sad. I'm hoping that with the economy and people going back to work and the stimulus obviously that we've got, hopefully that's not going to happen to the majority. But I don't see the other piece. I think a lot of people were asking, is this going to come back and bite us? Like, when you put your home in a forbearance or deferment or any of that stuff, it always comes back. Like, the investor never lets it go. And they always come back 5 years later and say, well, you did this one thing and that's counted to you against you as negative. And that will not happen, I can assure you. Just because they've done the right thing, they've actually been able to, like I said to you, lend give mortgage and lend to people literally right out of forbearance immediately. So this was specifically because of the pandemic. It was ran extremely well, in my opinion, where it will not come back and bite people years later, and it would count against them that you did not make a mortgage payment for X amount of months, and therefore you should not be getting a loan. So as long as you've kind of moved on from that property, like I said, sold it or made that mortgage payment 3 consecutive, it's kind of, we've all went through it. This is what it is. And you get a break, to be honest with you, which is a good thing. And it should.
Yeah. I want to ask you, we only got probably 5 more minutes here, but I want to ask, and we have time for another question or two if anybody has one. So leave them in the comments. I'd love to ask your question. But I wanted to ask, if global mobility managers are watching this or RMCs, what are some of the things that they should be thinking about when looking at a relocation mortgage provider?
Great question. I would say for a mortgage provider, you probably should look for someone who knows relocation. I think that's really important. Knows relocation, knows how to deal with the relocation. There's a lot of nuances when it comes to relocation. That's just not anybody can kind of pick it up, understand it, from the direct billing to the mortgage subsidy, to just the pressure and the demand that the client, the employer, the transferee kind of goes through. So I would say, make sure you work with someone who knows relocation, have been doing relocation for a good number of years. I think customer service, getting your transferee from point A to point B in the smoothest, easiest possible way. I think that's huge because it's all a reflection of how your company is, to be honest with you, because you're the one who's moving them. They could talk, there's a lot of water cooler talk or, Zoom calls, and they could talk to their friends and family about how the move went and would they be willing to do it again, to be honest with you, over and over. We move people every 3-4 years and they come back to us because they love their last experience that was with us. And I think a lot of the other tools, like the great technology, I think that's huge. We keep talking about technology and sometimes companies don't define what does that technology mean. Well, everyone has got a portal and they can upload into it, but what is that technology really in depth? Do a demo, have them show you what that technology looked like and how does that help the transferee and who else is involved in that relocation, because it's not just between us, the lender, and the borrower. There's a lot of other people that's involved, the relocation consultant, the real estate agent, a builder if there is one, maybe sometimes family member if, someone is moving and they've got their family, their dad or their mom helping them because they know more. That's huge, especially for first-time home buyer, younger people that are moving and making that big step. So I think there's a lot of these nuances that I feel like you need to talk to, make sure you look into with mortgage provider. And I think, then you've got relationship. To me, we're in the business, I always say, we're in the business of relationship building. We're not transactional. I don't look at it as one transaction at a time, one closing it. I look at it as that relationship that we build, and we're all about creating customer for life, really, truly.
Why is relationships important though? Because I was just in a clubhouse room. Jack Champel was doing his other side of the coin. And the question was, are RFPs a sham? And we go through all these. We go through all these RFP hurdles, and we get competed in all sorts of different ways. And I think there's a prevalent idea that a lot of service providers, or there's a lot of sameness among service providers in the same category. How do relationships really come into play in 2021 with so much technology and so many streamlined processes? I mean, why are relationships really important?
It is because I think it's that human connection, to be honest with you. I think like we talk about it, even though there's the technology and there's the Zoom and everything, I'm a big fan of meeting people face to face. I love meeting people face to face. Yeah, the video is great, but I feel like that's how you get to know people. You shake hands, you smile, that human interaction, you share that drink or that, meal with someone, or just that cup of coffee, whatever it is, and you get to know that person. So I think relationship huge, to be honest with you. And both aspects, from an RMC perspective, a client, also lender, because it tells you, like, is this the right person? Is this the right company? Do they share my value? Do they share the same goals that we want and have, obviously, in common? is this the right person I want to work with? And that comfort level, I feel like you get that with people. Once you get to meet them and get to know them, you build that really great relationship and that comfort level that, okay, I can say, I can talk, I can share anything with that person. And they share like what our passion is. So I think that's huge, to be honest with you. Relationships is huge in any of these things. And yeah, I did read that RFP. I think relationship plays a key part, but I also do think that there's a reason why it's done, because all the other thing that comes with it, you got to talk about it, you got to show it, but relationships are huge for sure. And I agree.
Yeah, I think relationships are also maybe indicative of an alignment between organizations, right?
Yes.
Because if we have a relationships, what does that really mean? It means we're aligned as individuals, right? Maybe
Right.
we're aligned as organizations as well. So I think being aligned is really, really key. I would agree with you there. Nina, we're at the end of our time, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to leave us with maybe a final thought. Is there something you'd like to share with everyone?
Oh gosh. I mean, like I said, I think just in general, to be honest with you, for me, like I said, I shared, my story, and I would say just for any person out there, men, women, I don't look at it. I wish the cliche of like I said, pats on the back. I love how women are getting to the C-suite. Obviously, not to the number we'd love to be at, but believe in yourself, push yourself, work hard, I think. And if you feel like you've earned it and deserve it, then go for it. And I wish like we get to a point where it's no longer kind of a celebration because a woman made it to a certain, level or position. I wish it's because that person, men and or women, because of their qualification and their accomplishment, and that's what gets celebrated, instead of like a lot of time I get, that, oh my God, that's great, you're the president, you're a woman. I mean, I take pride in it, I love it. But I wish it becomes more about the person and the qualification, what that person has done to get to that position, men and or women, to be honest with you. So that's kind of my last thought. I wish we're going to get, and I think we will get there one day. I believe in it.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us, Nina. This has been so much fun. I've learned a lot. I've been inspired. I'm smarter about mortgages. Nina Arnaiz, thank you so much from
Thank
Premia.
you. Absolutely. Thank you for giving me the pleasure talking to you.
Of course. It's great having you here. And thanks to everybody else who got involved. Thanks to everyone who got involved in the comments and left great questions. It was really great to see all of you here. It's always better when you get involved. So thank you for being here and taking time out of your day to be here with Nina and I. Nina, have a good one. I can't wait to see you in Detroit.
You as well. Thank you. Bye-bye, guys.